Today is June 10th, which is observed around the world as International Heraldry Day. Heraldry is a subject of some interest to me and Father Voitis. It is the art and really the science, because it's a body of knowledge on devising coats of arms. The coat of arms being a unique identifying mark for a person or for an institution. Heraldry developed in the Middle Ages as a way of identifying soldiers on the battlefield. Over your armor, you'd wear a coat that had certain symbols on it that would identify you. You would have that same group of symbols on your shield over your arm. And it was those shields that kind of developed into what is a coat of arms as a kind of artistic representation, a symbolic representation of a person or an institution. Over time, it became a way to represent nations and states, to represent different kingdoms, to represent dioceses and parishes even, and to identify individuals in the church hierarchy. So I'll show you a few examples of that. Here are some examples of national heraldry. This is of course, the very notable, the very famous white eagle of Poland. This is the coat of arms of Poland. A very old symbol that has been used starting with kings of Poland many centuries ago and is now a symbol of federal Poland. We have here the coat of arms of the historic region of Bohemia, the Kingdom of Bohemia, which now is the coat of arms of the Czech Republic. Very distinctive, also very recognizable. You can see this lion with the crown and the twin tails is a distinctive symbol again of what once was Bohemia and now we call the Czech Republic. And if you've watched the World Cup or you've watched the Olympics, you've probably seen this one. This is the coat of arms of Germany. That black eagle, very distinctive symbol, very German symbol, and representative then of the German people. On the state version of their flag that's flown on government buildings, the coat of arms will actually appear in the topmost black stripe. You see heraldry in use in different institutions. You'll see it used by educational institutions. This is the coat of arms of the Pontifical College Josephinum on this paperweight thing they gave me around the time I graduated. That's where I went to seminary. It's where Father Voitis went to college seminary before he went on to his theological studies. You can see here some of the symbolism on it. We have the triple tiara of the Pope, along with the crossed keys of St. Peter. Those are usually used in heraldry to indicate the office of the Pope, and I'll show you the coat of arms of the reigning Pope here in a moment. But they're also used on the arms of papal institutions, so schools that are run by the Vatican. The Josephinum, unique among American seminaries in that it isn't run by a diocese or a religious order, but is accountable directly to the Congregation for Clergy in Rome, and always has been a pontifical seminary, so they are entitled to use the tiara and the keys on their coat of arms. You can see the ship on there is a symbol of where the Josephinum is located. It's in Columbus, Ohio. Columbus named for Christopher Columbus, and so the ship is a symbol of the city of Columbus and the Diocese of Columbus, representative of Christopher Columbus himself. The way this is sort of differenced from the coat of arms of the diocese is that up here in the corner we have a fleur-de-lis, a stylized lily, being a symbol of St. Joseph, named because the Josephinum has as its patron St. Joseph. Another place you'll see institutional heraldry, as I said, you'll see it with dioceses and parishes. Up top we have our Diocese of Charlotte. Down here the parish of St. Vincent, and I'll zoom in on that in a second and talk about the symbolism because I'm really familiar with it because I designed it actually about a year and a half before I was assigned here. I designed the coat of arms at St. Vincent's. I've designed a couple of others for parishes around the diocese. St. Mark's up in Huntersville as a parting gift to them after before I transferred, I had their coat of arms drawn up. At Our Lady of Lourdes in Monroe, where I was assigned previously, designed a coat of arms for them that we then followed what I call the second rule of heraldry and put on everything. We had banners with it. We had letterhead and envelopes and business cards and things. At St. Vincent's, we've done that as well. Our letterhead has it. You'll see it on the front of the bulletin. If you've seen it, that's probably where you've seen it, is on the front of the bulletin. I think we use it here on this YouTube channel some. You'll see here my business card, and my business card has the coat of arms on it again, following the second rule of heraldry, which is to put your coat of arms on everything. That's the second rule of heraldry. What's the first rule? The first rule is what we call the color rule. It is extremely important. The color rule is you can't put color on color or metal on metal. So metal would be gold or silver, so that would be yellow or white. And then color would be basically anything else. So you'll see here that we have the black eagle on the gold shield. And the idea is that that presents contrast. And you'll see that's true of all of these, because all these are very well designed. And you'll see these as well. That's true of them too, that we don't put color on color or metal on metal. This goes back again to the medieval origins of heraldry, where a coat of arms was used in the battlefield to identify people. So in the smoke and the dust of battle, we need to be able to see who you are, so we need some contrast on your coat of arms. So we can tell, who's who. It's such an important rule that a coat of arms that doesn't follow the color rule and puts color on color or metal on metal is called false arms. The idea being that you broke the rule, so your coat of arms is somehow invalid. Or it's called arms of inquiry, meaning if you messed that up, that's such an egregious mistake that you clearly did it on purpose so that we would ask you why your coat of arms was like that. There are many exceptions to the color rule, actually. Noted heraldist Bruno Heim, Archbishop Bruno Heim, worked in the Vatican. He designed coats of arms for several modern popes, John the 23rd and Paul the 6th among them. Also John Paul the 1st, who has a very stunning coat of arms that the day he died was actually the day that his sort of signet with that coat of arms in it was delivered. So never really even got to use it. But Archbishop Heim wrote a book identifying talking about sort of the history of the color rule and identifying exceptions to it throughout history. But the main historical exception to it was the Crusader Kingdom of Jerusalem. And you'll still see that symbol quite a lot if you go to Jerusalem. It's a silver shield with a gold Jerusalem cross, so sort of a plus sign looking cross with 4 smaller crosses in the arms of it. And the reason Jerusalem could sort of get away with it is that it was considered such a holy city that it was above the earthly rules of heraldry. So now I'll talk a little bit about the coats of arms behind me. I'll zoom in and show you in a little more detail what we've got up here. So we'll start up here at the top. This is the coat of arms of the Diocese of Charlotte. It's the redesigned version of it that was done a few years ago, the version that had been in use for many years. A lot of people didn't find it very aesthetically pleasing, and there were actually some things wrong with it from a technical standpoint as far as heraldry goes that we won't go into because that'll take days to explain. But you'll notice there's 2 kind of notable symbols on that. On the green field on the top, we have a Celtic cross, which symbolizes the sort of Irish heritage of the diocese and of the area, and particularly our cathedral, whose patron saint is St. Patrick. Below that we have a crown, because Charlotte is nicknamed the Queen City. I've used that a little bit in my own work in heraldry as a symbol of Charlotte. For parishes nearby, I did it on St. Mark's. I put a crown on that. I've actually gotten away from that a little bit in more recent designs. I designed a coat of arms for our Catholic Health Professionals organization that I'm the chaplain of, and used a hornet's nest instead, which is a neat sort of callback to the Revolutionary War. If you know the story, it's a very interesting one. If you don't know the story, I encourage you to look it up, but we won't go down that rabbit hole. Let's move on now to, let's step down to another institution. I mentioned already St. Vincent's Parish coat of arms, and this one bears some explaining. So first off, the bottom part of the shield is black and has a heart and 7 coins on it. The heart is a symbol of charity, of course, charity and love. The 7 coins, coins being a symbol then of kind of what we tend to think of as charity. So charity, as we mean it theologically, is love, and the love of God in particular. Charity, as we tend to think of it kind of in modern colloquial English, is giving to the poor. And of course, St. Vincent de Paul is notable for his care for the poor. So those symbols kind of show that. The black then sort of reminiscent of his habit. He wore a black habit, and his religious order continues to do so to this day. Up above that is what we call a chief. A chief is sort of a narrow band across the top of the shield, and in the chief we have an open book and 2 red fleur-de-lis. Those are symbols of the parish that the parish of St. Anne, that St. Vincent's had been a mission of years ago before it split off and became its own parish. I chose the fleur-de-lis because they are a symbol of not only St. Joseph, as I mentioned when talking about the Josephinum, but also of Mary. The fleur-de-lis, the lily being a symbol of purity, and so it's an appropriate symbol for the Immaculate Mother of God and her most chaste spouse. The open book, because Mary is usually shown in art alongside St. Anne, and St. Anne is teaching her to read. Or I should say, St. Anne is usually shown in art, teaching Mary to read. So now we'll go up here. Those are our institutional coats of arms that are here. We have some personal coats of arms. First, our Holy Father, Pope Francis. Again, I talked about the crossed keys. You'll see up top, not the papal tiara, but kind of a stylized mitre. This is something that started with Pope Benedict. He did that on the kind of first version of his coat of arms that came out. There were some other artistic representations that had the tiara on it, but the mitre kind of started with him, and trying to, since the tiara is no longer used, like the actual physical tiara is no longer used, the popes were kind of moving away from using that in art and in their heraldic achievement. You'll see the IHS, the monogram. It's just a shortened version of the Latin, or rather the Greek, name of Jesus, with that cross and those nails on it on that sort of sunburst shape. That's a symbol of the Jesuit order that Pope Francis belonged to. And then we have a star, representative of Mary under her title of Star of the Sea. And that sort of bunch of grapes-looking thing is actually not grapes, it's spikenard, which is an aromatic flower, and also a symbol of St. Joseph. So he chose symbols of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph for his coat of arms. The motto underneath. And the motto doesn't really even have to be included. The motto is not technically part of the coat of arms. Properly speaking, the coat of arms is just the shield, and if you just wanted to display the shield, you could do that. Whether you're the Pope or whoever, the shield is really the most important part. But the motto, he had mercy on them, and or he chose them that he might have mercy on them. I'm probably getting the Latin wrong. It's kind of late at night, and my English is only sort of functional, much less my Latin. Moving on now. Here you see the coat of arms of our bishop, Peter Judas. You'll notice that on the, it's actually the right side of the shield. Looking at it, it's the left, but it's more, if the shield was facing you, it would be the right side, what we call the dexter side. You see the arms of the diocese, and on the other side you have Bishop Judas's personal arms, which is on the left side, or the sinister side. So again, as you're looking at it through, on this video, it's on the right, and Bishop Judas's is on the right, but really imagine you're holding the shield, it would be on your left. The reason we put the arms of the diocese on there, it's what's called marshalling. And marshalling is where you put two coats of arms together to show jurisdiction. Sometimes it's used for, say, married men to show they'll put their arms on the same shield as that of their wife. In this case, it's to show that the bishop has jurisdiction over the diocese. We put the diocesan arms on the right side of the shield because the right is sort of the superior side. It's to show kind of which is the higher ranking thing on there. Bishop Judas's coat of arms is just the gold part with the red cross on it. And he once explained his arms to me. It's actually very neat. It's very simple, but there's a lot of meaning. He was very deliberate about what he put on there. The cross is called a cross botany, meaning it has little buttons at the end of the arms of the cross. He chose that because it has sort of 12 points on it, representative of the 12 apostles. And the gold in the back is an allusion to Mary under her title of Tower of Gold. The other things you'll notice on here, we have the insignia of a bishop on the coat of arms, the external ornaments of the coat of arms. We have a green galero, the hat there, with 12 tassels indicating he's a bishop. Different numbers of tassels and different colors indicate different ecclesiastical ranks. The really important thing, though, as I said, we could just display the shield, but if you want to make sure that people know this is the bishop, that cross behind it, some people will call it a processional cross. It's not really what it is. It's to indicate that this is the arms of a bishop. We'll move on now to the arms of a priest. Really the arms of Father Voitis, but not just Father Voitis. You'll notice that looks kind of familiar. It's because we just saw the other coat of arms that's marshaled on there, and that's the parish of St. Vincent. So this is Father Voitis as pastor of St. Vincent. And I said that's marshaled, and it looks a little different from how Bishop Judas's is. And the reason is that there are different ways of showing jurisdiction. So on Bishop Judas's, it's what's called impalement. So it's in an up and down line. On Father Voitis's, it's quartering. So the top right quarter and the bottom left quarter are that of the parish, and then his personal arms are in the other two quarters. It wasn't on purpose, but St. Vincent's arms end up looking fairly similar in their layout to that of Father Voidis. That wasn't intentional. I just kind of designed that, and then we put them together and happened to notice that. He has on there a very lovely leaping white stag. He chose that because it was the only animal in the medieval bestiary, the book of kind of strange beasts, that could defeat a dragon. And you'll notice that cross up top in the chief on his looks kind of familiar. It's because it was taken from the arms of Bishop Judas. He did that as a kind of homage to the bishop who ordained him. You'll notice that the galero on his coat of arms is black as opposed to the green of a bishop. You'll notice that it has two tassels on it. You'll occasionally see black galeri with differing numbers of tassels for different other ranks of sort of ecclesiastical officials. Rectors will have 4, vicars forain will have 4, and I believe vicars episcopal and the judicial vicar of the diocese, I know does this too, will have a black galero with 12. Abbots will also have a black galero with 12, and they'll put a crozier behind their coat of arms with a little veil on it called a sudarium. Over here we have another priest. This is not a shield that is quartered for jurisdiction. The way Father Voidis's is just drawn quarterly. This is that of Father Mariani, who used to be the parochial vicar here. This is one of my favorite designs to do. I designed his one night in about 10 minutes. He told me what he wanted, and we just kind of put it on there. The light blue and white are the colors of the flag of Argentina, where he's from. He chose the fleur-de-lis as an homage to Mary and to Louis de Montfort, and he chose the shells. The scallop shell is a symbol both of St. James, his namesake, and also St. Augustine, which his middle name is Augustine. So he chose the shells as that. It's a very simple design. It's a very straightforward design. A lot of people think he went to Carolina because of the light blue, but it's just because he's from Argentina, and the motto he chose is that. And the last coat of arms I'll show you is my own personal arms. You can see the field in the back is kind of divided in a way, in sort of that zigzag shape. This is representative of the Blue Ridge Mountains, where I grew up, in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. The two fleur-de-lis and the lion represent the institutions that formed me. So one fleur-de-lis is taken from the Scout emblem, the other from the Pontifical College Josephinum, where I went to seminary. The lion is from the coat of arms of Belmont Abbey, and really their first abbot, Leo Haid, Leo meaning lion. I also chose those symbols as an allusion to the papal coat of arms of Pope Leo XIII, his name being Leo, meaning lion, and he had 2 white fleur-de-lis on a blue field on his coat of arms, and he was a major kind of influence when I was early on in my studies. The symbolism also worked out, and I didn't do this on purpose, but if you look, it's a visual representation of the Holy Family. So as I said, the fleur-de-lis can be a symbol of Mary and Joseph, and then Jesus is called by the title Lion of Judah. And so we have Jesus, Mary, and Joseph represented on there, which is sort of appropriate. It actually had kind of a personal significance to me because there's a wonderful little shrine to the Holy Family where a dear friend of mine said a lot of prayers for my vocation over the years. And so it kind of was providential that those choices would come to mind. You'll see the motto on it, Vos autem dixi amicos, which is taken from John's Gospel, chapter 15, verse 15, but I have called you friends. And I chose that in recognition of the fact that I found my vocation through the influence and the prayers and the love and support of a lot of friends of mine. And again, the black galero with just 2 tassels on it, indicating that I am a priest and don't hold any higher ecclesiastical rank than that. So I hope you've enjoyed my little explanation of heraldry, of our parish's coat of arms, of my personal one and that of Father Voidis and our bishop and our pope. This is a topic that I've always found very interesting. I've always found very kind of fascinating. Designing coats of arms is very fascinating to me because you have to work within the constraints of the customs and the rules. You have to try to convey information that identifies someone, but to do it in a sort of readable and beautiful way, really. So it's always something that I found very interesting and a little bit of a hobby. I've also done it on commission a few times. I've had, been contacted by priests and parishes to design them for them, but again, it's something I, kind of do for fun. And, you can see that it gives a little bit of life and color, and it gives some enduring significance, that we live in an age where, organizations and are constantly sort of rebranding themselves or reinventing themselves. A coat of arms is something that's never really dated. We could do a new artistic rendition of St. Vincent's coat of arms in 10 years, but keep all the same elements, and there would be sort of continuity. Because it isn't meant to be something that changes. It isn't meant to be something that sort of continues to tell a story. It's rather, a symbol of the institution, or it's a symbol of the individual. It's a unique identifying mark for them that, continues to sort of represent them, even as time goes on. So again, something I've always found very fascinating. I hope this is at least somewhat interesting to you. So thank you for indulging me and for celebrating with me International Heraldry Day. God bless.